Welcome to this quick vocabulary and literary terms video for the short story, The Gift of the Magi. We're going to be defining key literary terms like irony, theme, allusion, symbolism, and figurative language. And we're not going to go terribly in depth about each of these, but we're going to give you a crash course review of all of them. The first term we need to learn is irony, which is the humorous or mildly sarcastic use of words to imply the opposite of what they normally mean. For example, dramatic irony is a type of irony when the reader or audience knows something that a character doesn't. For example, we might see dramatic irony in these two animal examples because we can see something that a character like this person or this bird cannot. If you've ever had a moment in a movie when you've watched a bad guy creep up on an innocent person and you've just wanted to yell at the TV screen or call them an idiot, then that's probably dramatic irony. Situational irony is when an action has an unexpected opposite effect than it was intended to. So one might call it situational irony if an ice cream shop is right next to a Weight Watchers center, or if there are escalators going to the gym. Theme is a literary term for the message of the story or saying what the story is about. It's almost never explicitly stated, you almost always have to infer it, and it can often be summarized in one word or a short phrase or saying. So for example, if you've read A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, then you might call the theme of the story selflessness or love, because that's what the story is about, trying to show Scrooge what the true meaning of Christmas and the true meaning of life are. And you could make an argument that Dickens is trying to say that the meaning of life is about selflessness or caring or loving for others. If you've read The Giver by Lois Lowry, you could argue for all kinds of logical themes like truth or the importance of freedom or, again, love. Allusion is a reference in one work to another historical event, person, or work of literature in order to deepen the meaning. In this short story, we're going to see one big piece of allusion, which is the Magi, meaning the wise men from the east that we see in the Bible during the Nativity story. But you're also going to see a few quick references to the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon, who are also both historical and biblical figures. So remember this when you're reading, and when they come up, let's try to figure out what they mean. Symbolism is kind of like allusion, but not the same thing. Symbolism is when a concrete item represents a larger, more abstract idea. It's when something normal has a hidden meaning. We've talked this year about how apples can have secular or religious symbolism. For example, they could represent something like temptation in a biblical context, if you're thinking about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, or temptation in the sense of Snow White. Storms, or any types of weather in literature, are often symbolic. They usually mean something greater than they appear. For example, if there is a storm on its way, then that's usually giving a sense of foreboding, like danger is coming. Or if you see a sunrise or sunset, then that light could be an implication for the end or the beginning of something. Just a little hint, when we read the short story, take a look at the important items in the story. There are two in particular, but definitely some lesser ones also. I want you to see if you can notice if they represent something else. Finally, we need to talk about figurative language. Similes are comparisons of two terms using like or as. For example, if you listen to most music nowadays, you'll hear a lot of similes with heartbreak. For example, my heartbreak was as wide as an ocean. But there's several similes in the short story, and here is one of them that I've taken from the story for you. Della's beautiful hair fell about her, rippling and shining like a cascade of brown waters. So her hair is clearly not an actual, literal waterfall, but we're comparing it to that kind of falling, rippling cascade. A metaphor is similar but different. It's when two things are compared in a non-literal way without using like or as. Sometimes metaphors are very obvious and can be found in the words. For example, in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, there's a line by Romeo that goes, "But soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun." But is she literally the sun? I don't think so. He's just comparing her to the sun, or saying that she has qualities like the sun, which is intended to be a compliment, but may or may not be. Sometimes, though, the larger metaphor is implied and not directly stated, and almost like a symbol it has to be interpreted. For example, I'm going to challenge you later to think, why does the author make a giant metaphor between the characters and the Magi? Here's a little preview of the short story we're about to read. This short story was originally published in 1905 in the magazine The New York Sunday World, and it was later published in a book along with some other short stories. And just so you can kind of imagine this time period, this is before World War I, before the Titanic disaster, the Russian Revolution, or the Great Depression. So as you can kind of see by the clothing on this book cover, this is before many things we know of in the modern time. This short story is popularly read and performed around Christmas even today. There's our stage versions of it. And it's about a poor young married couple living in a New York City apartment. I would tell you more, but that would possibly be counting as a spoiler. When you read, I want you to watch for symbolism, irony, and illusion, all the things we've talked about today. By the way, this story has a lot to be excited about. There's true love, there's some mind-exploding symbolism once you find it, there's some holiday season festive illusion, and a pretty epic plot twist ending. It's going to be tempting to spoil the ending for yourself or for other people, but please don't do it. See you soon.